All right, so that's all I got on him. So we're gonna move on to the Keefe D thing. Now, basically, what's going on in the Keefe D thing is he had a trial today because they filed a motion to dismiss his murder charge for the Tupac case. And the reason why they asking for a motion to dismiss is because of something called corpus delicti. Corpus delicti. And basically what that is that that's in Italian, that's body of the crime. That don't mean physical body. That means body, like paragraph, body, subject. Like it has to be more evidence connected to the crime. There has to be proof of a crime committed beyond a confession. Because and the purpose of that, this law was invented way back in the day, and it was invented to protect against false confessions, or confessions given out of coercion. You know what I'm saying? So that's why this was the corpus delicti. So they was filing a motion to dismiss under that because they was trying to say all you have is him telling this story. Y'all don't have no other evidence against him, right? So that was one of the things they was going for. And the other one was, no, that was it. But ultimately, he got denied. The judge denied him. So we're going to listen and see what happened.
Mr. Davis solely based on his admissions. And if they don't have any evidence to corroborate those admissions, the case should be dismissed. And it's very clear, we both cited to the same exact case. That was the Sheriff Dada case. And
see, he just said it right there. If they don't have any evidence to corroborate the story, then the case is to be dismissed. Everybody that was in the car is dead. Like, they don't have a gun. Like, they don't have no type of evidence against Keefe D other than his word. And the cold-blooded part about it is when he gave his initial confession, he gave it to a detective as a deal to not go to jail for the drugs he was selling because they were that thirsty to solve the Tupac murder.
Clear, Your Honor. The state cannot proceed with a conviction against Mr. Davis solely based on his admissions. And if they don't have any evidence to corroborate those admissions, the case should be dismissed. And it's very clear, we both cited to the same exact case. That was the Sheriff Dada case. And the law is very clear that we cannot have just the confessions, because if you just leave that to the jury is going to just assume guilt because he confessed. And so without the state providing any evidence outside of those confessions, that's a huge problem. It amounts to a legal trial, a trial that won't have the correct result. And so the state is saying that basically we were we should have done this as a habeas petition. I disagree with that. Here's the reason why.
Now, what he just said was a habeas petition. They said that they was told that they should have filed this this corpus, whatever, delicti as a habeas whatever the fuck he just said. Man, these words is fucking crazy. They should have did that. And what that mean is that's basically a request for the court to review any evidence to prove, because basically they're trying to justify why the person is locked up, and they asking the court to review whether the person is being locked up lawfully, like did they have probable cause to arrest him, did they violate any rights, this, that, and the third. Like, is this person supposed to be locked up right now?
The state is saying that basically we were, we should have done this as a habeas petition. I disagree with that. Here's the reason why. We are not contesting probable cause. What we're contesting is, after all of the evidence has been delivered, there's no corroborating evidence. There's nothing. And then the state also stated that we're just looking for a corpus delicti, you just have to look at the body. If there's a body, there's corpus delicti, and that's just not the rule, Your Honor. There has to be, obviously in this case, a body, but the state has also alleged that this was assisted, promoted by a gang. And so those facts have to be evident. And the only way we have those facts is from Mr. Davis's own mouth. The other participants in this, which I'll talk about in my second argument, are all dead. And so, but for Mr. Davis speaking and giving those statements, there is no corpus delicti in this case. I'll go to argument 2. And that's Mr. Davis's right to a fair trial and due process. The state pointed out the correct standard of review for that, and I don't disagree with that standard.
Now, I would love to know how much this lawyer got paid. He paid some good money for him. I've never heard of corpus delicti in my life. I had to look this up. I didn't know this was a thing. I thought that once you confess, that's it. Ain't no point in going to trial. Ain't no none of that. Just sentence, lock the gate, throw away the key. He confessed. It's clear he did it. And this guy is saying, no, we trying to do this corpus delicti because under that, the jury can't just go off of his confession because they'll assume guilt because he confessed. No, there has to be under this law, there has to be other corroborating evidence to prove that this man is guilty. Where's the car that he say they was in? He's not naming this, but I'm just giving y'all an example. He might name it later, but I'm just giving out examples. He say he was in a white Cadillac. Do we have a Cadillac? No. Do we have any other witnesses? The guys that was in the car that he say was in the car with him? No. Everybody dead. The guy that gave him the gun, Eric Von Zip, he dead. Most of the people that was at the club that night from the Mob Paru side, they dead. Like we don't have no, like, we don't have a gun. We don't have nothing. All y'all got is him saying, oh yeah, this and this happened, which could be a complete lie, because it's very easy to tell a secondhand story from firsthand.
However, the part that we disagree with is whether Mr. Davis is prejudiced or not. They're saying, well, the witnesses that died are going to give speculative, well, it's speculative as to what the witnesses would say. In those cases, yes, that would have been the situation. In this case, it's different. I'll just concentrate on these 4 witnesses, Your Honor. Eric Martin, and just for the court's edification, Eric Martin was the person that supposedly gave the gun. DeAndre Smith, he was in the backseat. Terrence Brown, he was the driver, and Orlando Anderson was alleged to be the actual shooter. Without these 4 co-conspirators being alive, being available at trial, basically Mr. Davis is completely prejudiced from proceeding. And his defense is he made this all up for profit. These individuals, these co-conspirators, have to exist in an effort to kill Mr. Tupac Shakur.
That prosecutor has been pacing back and forward just about the whole time this dude been talking, which means that he is ready to go. I ain't never seen nothing like that. They usually stand in one spot. This dude been pacing the whole time.
They're not alive. If Eric didn't give him the gun, if DeAndre wasn't the driver, if Orlando didn't shoot, we don't have a murder according to the state's theory, which is following, again, solely the omissions. So we go back to when was this information available to the state. I would allege that it was available all the way in 1996. Everybody knew Orlando Anderson was in a fight with Tupac. Well, he wasn't in a fight. He got beat up by Tupac and other members of his gang viciously. He was the #1 suspect right off the bat. There should have been an alert. The police should have been searching for Orlando Anderson, but we always knew where he was because he went back to LA. They could have been in contact with him. They could have gotten statements from him. They could have gotten statements from Mr. Davis. They could have gotten statements from Mr. Martin.
He make a good point. He make a good point, because that's usually what happens when a murder occurs. The first thing they ask is, oh, wait, because that would have been ratting. But he say that the police knew that night that it was Orlando Anderson. Now, we don't know, because, of course, across the world, us fans that wasn't there, we didn't know who killed Tupac till 50 years later. But he's saying that they knew that night, so why they didn't go looking for Orlando then?
Martin. They knew all of these players way back in 1996. I don't know what happened. I'm sure Mr. Giacomo doesn't know what happened in regards to why the district attorney's office did not proceed with prosecution or at least an investigation at that time. But
man, you not finna tell me that the Las Vegas PD knew who shot Tupac back in 96 and didn't nobody do nothing. You not finna tell me that.
It's a tactical delay that goes severely against my client, because now all of these players are dead. I'll fast forward all the way to 2009. In 2009, the Metro officer comes down to LA and gives us, Mr. Davis gives the statement. That statement, all of the elements of this murder and what the state will attempt to prove at trial if the trial goes forward, is what Mr. Davis had said. They had that information. They did no investigation. At that time, Eric Martin was still alive, and also Terrence Brown was still alive. Orlando had passed in 1999, and I think DeAndre Smith in 2005. But at least two major players in this co-conspiracy are passed. The DA's office, again, does not do any investigation beyond that. And so, with that, we feel that my client's sufficiently prejudiced beyond repair. It leads me back to the immunity argument. In 2009, I counted.
They bringing up when he confessed to Greg Caton.
Well, I'll just go through the pages, Your Honor.
For the drug case, see, that's the thing. And that's what they can get him on. Like this dude, the detective went to Keefe D and said, listen, if you tell us about the Tupac murder, we won't charge you with this. And we won't charge you with nothing you had to do with the murder. And apparently this dude misunderstood his immunity, and then he went out there running his mouth and snitching on himself, and now he's sitting up there in court looking stupid.
Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way.
Shut up!
Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way.
Tell you something, if I ever did something like that and got away with it, I wouldn't tell myself.
In that 2009 discussion with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department's officer, Detective Long, on page 3, he says, no intent of arresting Keefe. Page 11, I'm not here to arrest you. I'm not here to arrest you. I'm not going to arrest you. Page 12, you're free to leave. I'm not going to arrest you. You can go wherever you want. Page 103 and number 4, Terrence Brown was still alive, and the detective said I was not going to arrest him. Page 134, I want to close the Tupac case. Page 138, this is confidential and covered, and you cannot be charged on it. Basically, you have the state was given the information by the LAPD. The LAPD had a immunity agreement with him out of the 2008 confession. The 2009 confession came by a product of Detective Dupree. Detective Dupree set that up. The only reason he set that up and why my client would have agreed to was that everybody was on the same page, that immunity was going to be provided. If it wasn't, how come he wasn't arrested right then and there? Because he said, I got the gun from Zip Martin, we were in a white Cadillac, I handed it to the back seat, and then Orlando took the gun and shot Tupac. All of that information is back there in 2009. But again, the DA office, and again, it's not these players, it's not Mr. Wolfson or Mr. Giacomo. That decision was made back then not to proceed with the trial. And now it's the state's burden, we believe, to show why they did not go forward and prosecute. They just can't sit here and say, well, he kept talking about it. No, you had that information in the beginning. You should have arrested him back in 2009.
What I believe personally is he kept talking about it, and Las Vegas PD started looking bad, and it just started because now it was cool long as he wasn't saying nothing and didn't nobody know. But once people found out he was walking the street and he started getting paid for telling that story, yeah, the police couldn't let that slide.
And so
You're not finna make the police look stupid and think you finna get away with it.
it had to be for a tactical advantage. That being, everybody's dead, it leaves Mr. Davis on the hook, and then he can't answer for all of the statements he made after that, other than it was for profit. And so,
Regarding the timeline that you've laid out.
Yes, Your Honor.
Would Mr. Martin and Mr. Brown have been alive after the Compton Street Legend book was published, or no?
What was that, 2018, right?
2019, no, the Terrence Brown dies, I believe, in 2015, and Zip Martin, I don't recall exactly when he died.
But it's not your argument that he ultimately would, if that's the state's triggering event for starting to investigate, that he would not have been alive at that time. Is that accurate?
After the book, right, when the book was published.
Yeah.
But after the 2009, he was still alive.
Of course, the Detective Long interview, of course, they're still
Right.
alive, but except for Mr. Anderson and Mr. Smith. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I had made it.
Yep. And outside of any other questions, Your Honor, we'd submit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arnold. Mr. Giacomo, anything you want to add?
Here we go.
Just briefly, as it relates first to corpus
See what this prosecution. Let's see what the prosecutors say.
delicti, that's death by criminal agency. Obviously, Mr. Shakur didn't shoot himself, so that is satisfied in a homicide by proof of the facts and circumstances, which were testified to, by the way, to the grand jury. And it is an argument. We didn't go through all of the evidence that is potentially out there. Their argument is there was insufficient evidence presented at the grand jury in order for them to be held under the corpus delicti rule. Even if you were to take it a next step further and say you have to have some evidence of a conspiracy independent of the bullets in Mr. Shakur, there's clearly at least a driver and a shooter, so evidence of a conspiracy exists. And so therefore, corpus delicti is satisfied no matter how you look at it, one way or the other. I also would dispute there's no independent evidence to corroborate, but that's not relevant in a corpus delicti argument. Corpus delicti is about criminal agency, and there's clearly criminal agency.
Didn't I tell y'all he was pacing back and forth for a reason? He was ready. He couldn't wait to rebut that shit.
In this particular case. As it relates to the second argument, I'm unclear exactly what their argument is on the tactical decision we made. Their argument is he fully confessed, which as the court reviews that transcript, you can tell that he is being a knowing spectator all the way up until Dan Long gets kicked out of the room. Then his lawyer and Detective Dupree have a conversation where his lawyer tells him, hey, if you say the wrong thing, this guy can arrest you. And as you well know, because they're in California, Dan Long can't arrest him. Dan Long has to come back here, submit a warrant for his arrest, and take him into custody. Detective Long never tells him that he has immunity, but even if he did, all that would go to is the admissibility of the statement. Because Detective Long doesn't have the authority to issue that, nor do the LA DAs or the LAPD or the federal government. Only a court in the state of Nevada could say Mr. Davis has immunity from the crime of murder in the state of Nevada.
They gave this nigga false immunity.
Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way. Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way.
These motherfuckers gave him immunity and they didn't even have the authority. What? Don't tell me they tricked him.
In Mr. Shakur, on the tactical decision we made, their argument is he fully confessed, which as the court reviews that transcript, you can tell that he is being a knowing spectator all the way up until Dan Long gets kicked out of the room. Then his lawyer and Detective Dupree have a conversation where his lawyer tells him, hey, if you say the wrong thing, this guy can arrest you. And as you well know, because they're in California, Dan Long can't arrest him. Dan Long has to come back here, submit a warrant for his arrest, and take him into custody. Detective Long never tells him that he has immunity, but even if he did, all that would go to is the admissibility of the statement. Because Detective Long doesn't have the authority to issue that, nor do the LA DAs or the LAPD or the federal government. Only a court in the state of Nevada could say Mr. Davis has immunity from the crime of murder in the state of Nevada, and he has pointed to zero evidence whatsoever of any immunity. He has referenced some proffer agreements that he had with other agencies, and certainly that could be the subject of future litigation as to which of those statements are admissible or not admissible. And then the other, I guess, argument is somehow we waited intentionally so everyone else would be dead to charge Mr. Davis with a crime. No, Mr. Davis chose upon himself to publicly confess to a crime multiple times.
Didn't I tell you they was cool with this nigga chilling as long as he shut the fuck up? No, he gotta go on Vlad TV, Cam Capone, Order Dialogue.
Detective Dupree have a conversation where his lawyer tells him, the federal government, only a court in the state of Nevada could say Mr. Davis has immunity from the crime of murder in the state of Nevada. And he has pointed to zero evidence whatsoever of any immunity. He has referenced some proffer agreements that he had with other agencies, and certainly that could be the subject of future litigation as to which of those statements are admissible or not admissible. And then the other, I guess, argument is somehow we waited intentionally so everyone else would be dead to charge Mr. Davis with a crime. No, Mr. Davis chose upon himself to publicly confess to a crime multiple times. And that's the evidence that spurred the investigation of Detective Mogg and ultimately resulted in his arrest.
Damn it, boy.
Mr. Davis has no...
I'm sorry, I want y'all to hear that again.
...to charge Mr. Davis with a crime. No, Mr. Davis chose upon himself to publicly confess to a crime multiple times. And that's the evidence that spurred to publicly confess to a crime multiple times. And that's the evidence that spurred the investigation of Detective Mogg and ultimately resulted in his arrest. The other, I guess, argument is somehow we waited intentionally so everyone else would be dead to charge Mr. Davis with a crime.
Last time.
Mr. Davis chose upon himself to publicly confess to a crime multiple times. And that's the evidence that spurred the investigation of Detective Mogg and ultimately resulted in his arrest. Mr. Davis has no basis to complain that he's sitting in that box right now. Because Mr. Davis got up there and even quote once said, I think it's in May of 23, on video, I beat the streets, I beat the feds, and I beat cancer.
Damn
That
it!
was his choice to make.
Damn
And
it!
when he made that choice, the state of Nevada chose to charge him, and he needs to stand trial for the charges, and I'll submit it.
Thank you, State. Mr. Arnold.
He just ate his lawyer's ass for lunch.
Ain't no way, ain't no fucking way, ain't no way, ain't no fucking way.
Keefe D going to jail, people. I don't know what the hell y'all talking about, boy. Pull up this Law and Crime and watch it for yourself all the way through, and watch Keefe D lawyer and then watch the prosecutor debate what the lawyer said. Oh my God, what? He murdered him just then.
Again, just a quick rebuttal. I don't want the...
No, brother. No, brother. No, brother. Ain't nothing you can say, brother. I want to hear what brother got to say, brother. Come on, brother.
Made that choice, the state of Nevada chose.
Mr. Arnold.
Again, just a quick rebuttal. I don't want the court to get hooked up on this corpus delicti. The corpus delicti rule is basically, again, that's in the...
That nigga addressed 75 things and you going back. Boy, you trying, boy. He trying, boy.
This corpus delicti. The corpus delicti rule is basically, again, that's in the preliminary hearing stages of the case. The black letter law is this. The law states you cannot have a conviction based upon just his admissions and statements. That's the law. If the state at this point puts on a trial to a jury and that's all they have is his admissions, that whole trial is illegal. That's a legal trial. It's going up for appeal. It should not happen. They need to have something else, a gun, a witness, something else that puts this gentleman, those three cool...
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. If y'all was watching, if y'all wasn't watching, I swear for Jesus, I said that earlier. That's what that meant. You can't just have his word. And I gave examples.
The law,
and I said later on he might give examples.
States you cannot have a conviction based upon just his admissions and statements. That's the law. If the state at this point puts on a trial to a jury and that's all they have is his admissions, that whole trial is illegal. That's a legal trial. It's going up for appeal. It should not happen. They need to have something else, a gun, a witness, something else that puts this gentleman, those three co-conspirators in the car. They need to have a witness to say that the gun was given to from Mr. Martin to Mr. Davis. They don't have...
Look at this stupid ass nigga standing there looking stupid.
anything. They don't have anything to even prove that my client was in the state of Nevada at the time of this incident. I mean, basically...
No, he didn't get it with the... Yeah, my lawyer cooking, baby. Yeah. My lawyer cooking.
That my client was in the state of Nevada at the time of this incident. I mean, basically, they have Orlando Anderson, but we don't know if the Crips were here. That's all hearsay that came from the grand jury, and there's no evidence whatsoever. And so without that, we can't put on the trial, Your Honor. We just simply can't. In regards to the delay, again, I don't blame this office, this DA's office in regards to the delay, but somebody made the decision along the way that we are not going to prosecute Mr. Davis. And this office now needs to go forward with that immunity agreement. They need to. Those promises were made by their officer, the state's officer, and now we're just going to ignore that? That doesn't make sense.
Immunity agreement.
But this is the thing. He didn't have the authority.
From this office, or from the general...
From the general
DA's
immunity
office,
that
yes.
started from 2008 and went to 2009. Like I said, the only reason that
Who within Clark County DA's office made that argument? Was that...
No, it wasn't at the DA's office. It was the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Officer, Detective Long.
When he said things like, I'm not going to arrest you.
Right. And again, like I said, it was not the office. And so outside of us, having an evidentiary hearing as to who made those decisions back then in the DA's office, I mean, my client is just prejudiced because of those decisions. Because Again, everybody waited all these years, and now we have players that are co-conspirators that are just dead and can't,
Okay, I'm going to fast forward it because basically he's just re-arguing his same point. I want to hear what the judge got to say.
For example, I confess that this morning, as I was satisfied with that proof, I am going to lose.
Because, again, co-conspirators that are denied participation. And so, with that, we'd submit, Your Honor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arnold. Okay, I'm going to take your arguments in turn. First, the corpus delicti argument. I am going to consider this on its merits, given the Supreme Court's guidance in Diami versus State. I think it's better to at least hear it on its merits. Corpus delicti requires that there be corroborating evidence to support a confession. In a homicide case in the Nevada Supreme Court, as you both said, indicated this would be satisfied by proof of death by criminal agency. So I think maybe an example makes the most sense to explain what this concept means. For example, I confess that this morning, as I was driving into work, I killed someone on 3rd and Lewis Avenue. All right, now let's say there's no body ever found, there's no video, there's nothing. It's only my statement that I killed someone that makes this crime exist. However, here, that is not in this case, that isn't the case. There is corpus delicti because Mr. Shakur was shot and eventually passed away from his injury. An autopsy was completed. His death was determined to be homicide by gunshot wound. And ultimately, it's a situation where the crime has been established, that the murder occurred because of the body of Mr. Shakur. So I will deny it on those grounds. Regarding the pre-indictment delay argument, as you both cited, it looks like the standard that's laid out federally in People versus Nelson. I'll use that standard. A delay in process.
So ultimately, the first thing she said was that corpus delicti that they was trying to do, saying that there needs to be more evidence other than his confession. She's saying, well, the body of Tupac Shakur is the evidence, because even though we do not have proof of no gun or nothing like that y'all shot him, we have your confession saying y'all shot him, detailing how y'all shot him. Then we have him shot. And he has bullets, and it's determined that he died by homicide from bullets. So not only do we have body, like paragraph body, for corpus delicti, we literally have a body.
Prosecution that occurs before the accused is arrested or the complaint is filed, so we're looking at a pre-indictment delay argument. That could potentially constitute a denial of the right to a fair trial and due process of law under both state and federal constitutions. And then determining whether prejudice to the defendant has occurred, the court needs to balance the harm to the defendant against the justification for the delay. Here, it's clear that some of the witnesses are now deceased, and there is definitely evidence that has been lost. However, I do find there is a justification for the delay, and a pretty significant one. Uncovering information on Mr. Shakur's murder was ultimately no easy task. There was the interview in 2009, but it's clear that there was, at the attorney's suggestion, Mr. Davis at that time was not giving full information. He was sort of trying to obscure information and make it very general so that he would not be charged with murder, as his attorney indicated. It was not until ultimately the Constant Street Legend book was released in 2019 that Detective Moth then sought to establish the words in the book are actually defendants and to corroborate those things. The prejudice of the death of the...
Whoa, she talking so fast. Wait a minute, did I have this speeded up? I do. Let me slow this down, because the lawyer was talking slow. Let me slow it down. She basically said the book is what did it for him.
Not being charged with murder, as his attorney indicated. It was not until at the attorney's suggestion.
Because ultimately what she's saying is the next argument about the immunity deal, when they did the deal, the attorneys, suggested, hey, we do this, whatever. And so the way he told the story was kind of general. That way he wouldn't implicate himself or whatever during the initial confession. However, once the book was released, the street legend, whatever the hell it's called, the Compton Street Legend, that's when the detective Long or Lang or whatever his name is was able to look at the words and go, okay, these are his actual words, and put the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's what did it, was the book.
However, I do find there is a justification for the delay, and a pretty significant one. Uncovering information on Mr. Shakur's murder was ultimately no easy task.
Because right now she's explaining, because they argument was, why didn't they arrest him back then? Why didn't they look into this, that, and the third back then? Why they waiting until now? Why didn't they do it when other people was alive? And so she's explaining that, saying that, well, uncovering the details about the murder was no easy task, and then yeah.
There was the interview in 2009, but it's clear that there was, at the attorney's suggestion, Mr. Davis at that time was not giving full information. He was sort of trying to obscure information and make it very general so that he would not be charged with murder, as his attorney indicated. It was not until ultimately the Constant Street Legend book was released in 2019 that Detective Moth then sought to establish the words in the book are actually defendants and to corroborate those things. The prejudice of the death of those 4 victims that have been identified had already occurred at that time. Additionally, it took the next several years to gather that evidence, and ultimately led to the June 23rd, 2023 search warrant of defendant's residence. After that search warrant was executed, then the grand jury indicted the defendant after several meetings in September of 2023. The defendant has not provided any evidence to establish that the delay was intentionally done to gain a tactical advantage or that the prosecution relayed in bad faith. I don't see that the state really does gain any sort of tactical advantage here. I still think, it's a bit of an uphill battle for them given what they have. And ultimately, they can't get complete justice for Mr. Shakur because of the deaths of those other people, including Mr. Anderson, who's the alleged shooter in this incident. And so I ultimately don't see that this is a situation where the state really got any advantage by delaying, and in fact is themselves hindered.
Basically, she said because the argument was they waited so long to do this and now they got an advantage or whatever because of the confession and da 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 da. She's saying the state really don't have an advantage in this situation because of the fact that everybody's dead and it, you know what I'm saying, like, so it don't make no sense that they waited this long to try to get a tactical advantage over you. Like, what advantage did they get when all the witnesses that could snitch on your ass are dead? Like, come on.
And so overall, I'm going to deny on the pre-indictment delay argument and turn to the immunity argument. It's fairly clear that the state of Nevada has never offered the defendant any sort of immunity. The federal government did in some capacity, but it doesn't appear to be complete transactional immunity. The court agrees that the interview defendant gave to the federal authorities in 1998 cannot be used against him as per the terms of the agreement. I think that's something that the state also conceded in their motion work. However, the defendant has not produced any sort of agreement showing the federal government offered him transactional immunity from ever being prosecuted for this crime. In the 2009 interview that's been referenced multiple times throughout these arguments, Detective Long's assurances of not arresting Mr. Davis really go to whether he was in custody for purposes of Miranda or things like that. Additionally, he didn't have a warrant at the time, so that was an accurate statement of the law. There's nothing in that that can imply transactional immunity. Additionally, his defendant's attorneys...
He mad because she's sitting up here basically telling him that immunity deal was bullshit. That's basically what she's telling him.
The federal authorities in 1998 cannot be used against him as per the terms of the agreement. I think that's something that the state also conceded in their motion work. However, the defendant has not produced any sort of agreement showing the federal government offered him transactional immunity from ever being prosecuted for this.
Wait a minute, what is transactional immunity? Because she's saying that some immunity does hold up, but they didn't offer transactional immunity, and that's what's getting him. Fuck is transactional? Transactional immunity is a legal protection that prevents a witness from being prosecuted for any crimes related to their testimony. It's also known as blanket or total immunity. How it works: a witness is okay. In federal case, the U.S. can request an order of an attorney. In some states, the prosecutor can obtain a formal court order or write a letter. Difference from use immunity. Use immunity only protects a witness from the government using their testimony against them in a prosecution. Transactional immunity protects a witness from prosecution for the offense they have testified about. Use immunity only protects a witness from the government using their testimony against them. Transactional immunity protects a witness from prosecution for the offense. So they gave him use immunity, which means that what you say here can't be used against you. But it does not protect you from ever getting arrested from the...
Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way. Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way.
Wow, he did not understand the immunity deal he got. Where is the shit? What?
Transactional immunity. The court indictment delay argument and turn to the immunity argument. It's fairly clear that the state of Nevada has never offered the defendant any sort of immunity. The federal government did in some capacity, but it doesn't appear to be complete transactional immunity. The court agrees that the interview defendant gave to the federal authorities in 1998 cannot be used against him as per the terms of the agreement. I think that's something that the state also conceded in their motion work. However, the defendant has not produced any sort of agreement showing the federal government offered him transactional immunity from ever being prosecuted for this crime. In the 2000...
Ooh, they got him. Ooh, they got him. They can't use his testimony against him, but they can absolutely prosecute him. And since he done already... So basically, this is what happened. This is where they got him on the confession. This is where they got him. Listen. In 2009, he confessed. That's what she said. In 2009, he confessed. That confession, that testimony that he gave because of the immunity that he received back then, they cannot use that testimony against him. Okay? She said that. However, whatever the immunity that he got was not full transactional immunity, which means that it did not protect him from being ever prosecuted for it again. Now, this is where the tricky part comes in. In 2018, he releases the book Compton Street Legend. He confesses in the book. That's after 2009. When I'm just spitballing. I'm assuming, just my common sense telling me. Once you confess in 2009, you got to shut up. You can't confess no more. If you, like the prosecutor said, he chose to go on these different platforms and repeatedly confess of what happened the night that Tupac. So, sure enough, the immunity from 2009 gonna uphold. And they can't use that, but I promise they gonna use everything else.
2009 interview that's been referenced multiple times throughout these arguments, Detective Long's assurances of not arresting Mr. Davis really go to whether he was in custody for
He went from smiling, shaking his head, thinking he was winning, and he no longer grinning, nigga. That's what you get for sinning.
purposes of Miranda or things like that. Additionally, he didn't have a warrant at the time, so that was an accurate statement of the law. There's nothing in that that can imply transactional immunity. Additionally, his defendant's attorney's concerns at that time of that 2009 interview with Detective Long kind of show the opposite conclusion, that he is concerned with the defendant being charged with murdering Mr. Shakur, and that, which leads me to believe that Mr. Davis did not have transactional immunity in the view of his attorney, and that's why his attorney advised Mr. Davis to keep it vague. And at that time, Mr. Davis did listen to his attorney, but his subsequent interviews and his self-proclaimed biography did not keep it vague. As the years passed, Mr. Davis revealed additional information on his own volition, and presumably for his own pecuniary interests that connected him to this.
I swear for Jesus, I just said that. I did not watch this shit.
Ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way.
Did you hear it?
Ain't no way.
She just said, 2009, it's not full immunity, full transactional immunity. However, he decided on his own volition to go and run his mouth.
That Mr. Davis did not have transactional immunity in the view of his attorney, and that's why his attorney advised Mr. Davis to keep it vague. And at that time,
Oh yeah, I left this part.
Mr. Davis did listen to his attorney, but his subsequent interviews and his self-proclaimed biography did not keep it vague.
So that's what she said. That's what she said. She said, from what I gathered from the last one, he obviously didn't have this is what she's saying, transactional immunity, and that's apparent by the fact that his lawyer told him to keep it vague. And so he did. He listened to his lawyer. He kept the story vague, kept himself out the story. However, in subsequent interviews after, he chose to go into more detail.
In the view of his attorney, and that's
He chose to not keep it vague. That's what she said.
being charged with murdering Mr. Shakur.
Self-snitching at his finest.
And that, which leads me to believe that Mr. Davis did not have transactional immunity in the view of his attorney, and that's why his attorney advised Mr. Davis to keep it vague. And at that time, Mr. Davis did listen to his attorney, but his subsequent interviews and his self-proclaimed biography did not keep it vague. As the years passed, Mr. Davis revealed additional information on his own volition, and presumably for his own pecuniary interests that connected him to this, the alleged death, or the death of Mr. Shakur, allegedly at Mr. Davis's hands. And I do find the state is entitled to use that information freely given by defendant with no prompting by governmental authority and released to the public in its prosecution. So I'm going to deny the motion on those grounds. Overall, the motion to dismiss is denied, and the state is prepared the order consistent with this ruling and with its opposition.
Thank you, we will.
All right, regarding trial readiness, where are we at with that, Mr.
Can we approach her?
Of course, yes. Give me 1 second.
Now he want to have a meeting. You lost. You lost.
We'll lose.
I don't need to watch no more of this. He got denied. I just need to see. I want to see the arguments. His lawyer tried. His lawyer put up a good fight. His lawyer brought up some great points, but that prosecutor was on his game, and that prosecutor was on his ass. And unfortunately, Keefe didn't understand what he was agreeing to, and because he was fined in 2009. All he had to do was be quiet. And he would have been fine. But like the judge said, he chose on his own volition to go off, do these interviews, no longer keep the story vague, give details, names, who was sitting where, who did what, who gave you the gun, where you went after you left the casino, when you met up with Orlando and what he said, and all this, where y'all went back to the house and grouped up and tooled. You see, didn't nobody have no tools, so you got the gun from, like, you literally told the whole story in detail. We pulled up to 662, and then what, they wasn't there. We waited for a minute, and they didn't come. And then Mob James corroborated that story on his Vlad interview because he said that he was one of the bodyguards that was at 662 that was standing outside, and he seen y'all pull up. I wonder if they gonna bring that in there. Oh, that'd be some shit, boy. They bring Vlad interview up in here. I think they're going to try, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it. Jesus Christ. Y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all think. Y'all think he going to beat this? You think the evidence circumstantial or what? But they didn't let the corpus delicti fly, which is the let me see, corpus delicti, which is meaning that they got to have more than just his confession to convict him. And the judge say, well, they got that because they got an actual dead body with bullets in it that died from homicide. So, yeah. But anyway, let me know what y'all think on that Keefe D thing, man. I think that's all I wanted to cover. Let me go look. Let me make sure. I think I talked about everything. Now, let me see. We talked about Chris Brown, yup. We talked about hip-hop. The hip-hop guys for Trump. I don't know if all the hip-hop is for Trump, but there's a lot of hip-hop artists that's down with Trump. We talked about Keefe D. We talked about Corey SSG, and that's it. I'm done. That's it. I had to get them stories out, man. That Chris Brown broke last night. Suing for $500 million. I hope he get it. He hoes out here lying. We got to stop the cap. Stop trying to set these black men up, man. Come on, man. What we doing, man? What we doing? But anyway, man, I hope everybody enjoy their morning. If you're getting up, going to work, shout out to you, you know what I'm saying? Have a good day at work, run the stream back, listen from the beginning. I hope it's entertaining. If you enjoy it, when you watch it, let me get a airplane emoji. And like, subscribe, and comment. And shit, don't forget, man, give me a super thanks, super likes. You know, I got the supers, man. If you rock with Unc, you want to help support the channel so I could upgrade and everything like that. You know what I'm saying? Because Unc going to give you the shit now. We going to get the content now. Unc, get the content now. We going to get the shit. You know what I'm saying? So, goddamn it, everybody have a great rest of your day, man. I'm about to call it, get me some Z's. I'm going to eat and get me some Z's. You know what I'm saying? So, I'll holler at y'all later, man. It's your boy OG Unc through the door, the original gigolo. If you love your bitch, you better hide the hoe. I don't choose, I get chosen. I'm colder than Eskimo toes on your hoe. Let's go.
Now that we got the debt understood, pass it back, well spoken. All these rappers starting to sound the same. Bend it over, bust it open.
Go. Bend it, bust it. 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 Okay. Bust it open, girl. Bend it, bust it open. Bust it. Bend it, bust it open, girl. Bend it, bust it open.
Bend it over, bust it open.
Do your thing, bitch.
Bend it over, bust it open.
Can you do a split?
Bend it over, bust it open. All these rappers starting to sound the same. Bend it over, bust it
Your mama don't
open.
recognize I'm the prize that she need new eyes. Traumatized from other guys, but she thick in the thighs. Otherwise, I don't try. I'm a pimp on the fly, way up in the sky, and I gotta stay high, and she gotta be by. And I mean that I'm on my demon. If your bitch wanna see me, I'm literally on your TV. Not hard to find me, it's easy. Catch me outside in the streets, you can see me. If she choosing, I'ma give it a beefcake like a Stevie. Hold up, slow it down and switch the flow up. Fuck her slow, yeah, I'ma show her. Put her legs up on my shoulder. Head first into the ocean. Bend it over, bust it open. Matter of fact, hold it. That ass you holding gon' get your shit swollen. On guard, I seen you the moment you showed up. I'm trying to see how you did what you did. Your body, your shape just like a Coca-Cola.